Thank you guys so much for watching this video, for clicking on it. And it's late at night, and hopefully you guys, you guys can do whatever you want. You can keep watching this video or not. I'm going to try to make like a 15 or 20 minute video. And sometimes these are one of my favorite videos, and I've had time to decompress a little bit and think about this Nebraska commitment. And I'm going to think about everything from a Nebraska point of view. And I want you guys to kind of let your minds wander as well. I want you guys to think, okay, about Nebraska football. And it's late at night. Late at night, when you're doing something late at night in your life, and I guess this can be a lesson for maybe young kids or anybody of any age, like things at night, when you're around a campfire late at night, or it's late and a lot of people are in bed and it's just night and you're kind of alone with your thoughts, and it gives you time to think, to process, to look at the bigger picture, to relax a little bit. Like at 1 o'clock, it's hectic. At 4 o'clock, it's hectic and you have a lot of responsibilities. Anyway, that's a rant. But if you guys like this channel, you're going to listen to what I have to say. So you could say I'm belaboring the point. Maybe I am. That's the point of sometimes a 15-minute 15-minute interview or a 15-minute video. So, Dylan Raiola, Nebraska, late night thoughts. What does this commitment mean for the Nebraska Cornhuskers? And I'm curious to hear what you have to say as well. The thing about Nebraska is that really since, and I've been a college football fan for about 12 years, but it's not about me. I'm now just going to talk about the program. For 12 years, they had Bo Pelini. You've never had a great offense. Never. In the past 15 to 20 years, the offense has never been consistently elite. It's never been a consistently elite offense. You would have a game or two. The closest thing that I can recall to an amazing offensive game is probably Tanner Martinez, 2011, I want to say, at Kansas State, when he ran all over Kansas State. Like, Tanner Martinez was the one player that had an amazing game. Ironically, Trey Palmer only played a year at Nebraska. Maybe the Purdue game was one of the great games. Maybe Tommy Frazier at Michigan or Tommy Armstrong at Michigan. I guess that there have been moments, but there's never been something super consistent about Nebraska offensive football. In 2010, you had Ndamukong Suh. You had maybe Levante David was on that team, Rex Burkhead. That team was a great football team. And Rex Burkhead's a really good player. I guess Amir Abdullah. So I don't mean that as a slight. I mean consistently great offensive football. And this is what Nebraska is striving for now with Dylan Raiola. When you get a quarterback of this magnitude that can make every throw across the field, your entire program can rise, okay? Look at Joe Burrow in LSU. He found it, it clicked, it was perfect, okay? So when you have a quarterback, things can click. And also, a friend said something to me. That's kind of the point of the video that I wanted to make. A friend said something to me today. I asked him, and he's a very good friend, okay? And he's somebody that's intelligent enough that we can discuss a lot. And I have a lot of friends, but this is a friend that I could talk about random college football with, which you guys know that are huge college football fans. You can't talk to everybody in your life about nuanced college football. It doesn't actually have to do with intelligence. This person just happens to be very intelligent. And I asked the question, why the heck is Ole Miss now the college football capital of the world? They're out here. They're going to get Walter Nolan. They're going to recruit Juice Wells, the number one wide receiver in the portal. Why are they going to have the most talented defensive roster in all of college football? Why do they have the number one portal class? Why are they going to be a national championship contender overnight? Why is their recruiting to the level of Texas, Alabama, and so on and so forth? You may think that this does not relate to Nebraska, but I'm going to connect it all back to Nebraska. The person said to me this: all it takes is one rich person. Now think about what I just said. All it takes is one rich person. And it takes hope. If you're a booster, if you are somebody in the state of Nebraska, if you are somebody out there that is a fan of Nebraska football and yearns and longs for Nebraska to get back to a place that which nobody ever foreseen Nebraska getting to, and that's a consistent powerhouse. That's not just having one good year. That's being a team that's national title good. That's a team that could win the Big Ten championship. You have a player in Lincoln, Nebraska now that honestly is a player that's good enough to possibly transform the sport of college football. And I know I'm putting pressure on Dylan Raiola, but Dylan Raiola is the number one quarterback. Essentially, I would say he's even better than that Ohio State wide receiver. He's the number one high school recruit in the country. He could be the number one player in college football. Right now, we're not saying he's going to be. We're not saying he's going to have an amazing career, but today's a fun day to dream about what this can be like. And today can be a day, even like Scott Frost, where you should feel happy and excited. Because for one time in the past, decade, Nebraska got good luck on their side. Nebraska caught a break. You caught the break of Dylan Raiola decommitting from Georgia. You caught the break of Dylan Raiola happening to be like a really talented kid who happens to be the son of Dominic Raiola, who happens to be the nephew of your offensive line coach, Donovan Raiola. All the stars had to align, but guess what? They aligned. And then Nebraska has a coach in Matt Rhule who didn't work out in Carolina. That star had to align for you to get Matt Rhule, a guy that you couldn't have hired out of Baylor because he was probably going to take a job that was like a job of maybe a program that was even more situated at the time than the University of Nebraska. And all of it happened. And now it's Matt Rhule and Dylan Raiola, and we could look back at this time and this day, December 18th, 2023, we could look back at this as a timestamp in time for when Nebraska made it. I'll remember exactly where I was. It was just after basketball practice today, okay? And I looked at my phone and I saw the news from a really good friend of mine, and who usually tells me this news, and it was "Let's go," and it was the tweet from Pete Thamel. So that's when I found out that Dylan Raiola was coming to Nebraska. So my point is, if Dylan Raiola is a success and Nebraska football wins 9 games or 8 games next year, say they win 10 games, you've Tony White as your defensive coordinator. You know what's going to happen if the transfer portal, and that's the thing about the unknowns. They're all the wilderness. They're all the unknowns in a year. But say Nebraska goes 9 wins next year. With their schedule, it's possible. And Dylan shows great signs of life at the end of the year, to the point where as a sophomore, he's up there for Heisman contender. And it's totally possible. I mean, Spencer Rattler at Oklahoma had that belt. Even quarterbacks that did not end up panning out have a really good freshman year. Like, it's possible to have that. So say Raiola does that, and the defense with Ty Robinson, the defense with Hutmacher, the schedule being so easy, say that you win 9 games. You know what happens? It goes back to my point about Ole Miss. Those wealthy people in Nebraska will then pay up. Belief is a powerful thing. And Matt Rhule, the name of the game is not only getting players, you can't get the players until you fundraise and get cash. Okay? And people with cash want to see the proof in the pudding. And what they will see is a team with Dylan Raiola that if you win 9 games and you're developing this defense, that suddenly you're Matt Rhule. You got maybe a once-in-a-lifetime quarterback. Then guess what? You're going to go all in on recruiting. If Dylan Raiola has one big year this year, if it gets off the ground and this jet starts to go on the runway, then the boosters and everybody knows you got 2 years of Dylan Raiola where you got to go all out to try to build a national champion, where you got to get every talented piece to try to build a national champion. And then if this thing somehow does it, your program can maybe be changed for the better. You know, you can be looking at Nebraska then, and instead of thinking about a program just trying to make a bowl game, you can then be looking at somebody who's trying to win the Big Ten title. And then maybe you have this program in the middle of Lincoln, Nebraska. You know, years ago, people said that the University of Nebraska, and these are big-time radio hosts that have said this, you know, and I'll compliment this guy. This guy is one of my favorite broadcasters in all of broadcasting. He probably has the best podcast and best monologue, so I'll give him a compliment, but I disagree with him. Or he can motivate me and motivate you as Nebraskans. But Ryan Russillo, a guy who used to work on the Scott Van Pelt show, he has a show now on the Ringer Network, Bill Simmons' network. He's brilliant on football and college football in the NFL. He sometimes says, like, Nebraska's never going to be back to the 90s. It's never going to be the 90s again. He's not alone. It's actually a popular sentiment. He just says it, or he just says it well, or he just says it, and I've just listened to him say it. So I'm not going to point him out, you know, in such a negative light. There's things that I say on my podcast that he should probably disagree with as well. And he's bigger than, and he's an incredible podcaster. He's somebody that everybody looks up to, whether how big or small their channel is. But he said that Nebraska will never be Nebraska of the 90s again. It'll never happen. You'll never go back to the Osborne era. You'll never go back to 90s Nebraska. Like, that dream's a pipe dream. Like, Nebraska was taking steroids. Nebraska's in the middle of nowhere. There's cornfields all around the University of Nebraska. These fans fired Bo Pelini after winning 9 games. Like, they're absolutely crazy. They're crazy. They sell out games. They have nothing to do in Nebraska. And they live in this alternate reality where they think they're going to be a national championship team in the 90s. That's the insult about Nebraskans. Right there is that they're Looney Tune-ish. They're from small town Nebraska with nothing else to do, and this country has moved towards Florida. It's moved to California. It's moved to Texas. You can't just go get the best players in the country. Television changed everything for Nebraska, the recruiting landscape, and all of that. And guess what? Guess what about that sentiment? That sentiment is 100% accurate. It's been 100% accurate for the past 2 decades. It's been 100% accurate. That television, that Nebraska doesn't get the best talent. I don't know about the steroids. That might be a low blow about Nebraska. But Nebraska is not the only show on television anymore. And it's not the 1990s, sure. And that sentiment's been accurate for 20 years. But to say that Nebraska will never get back to ever winning a national championship, to ever getting to that pinnacle, to ever being there on the big stage with Ohio State, to ever being there on the big stage with Michigan, to ever being there with Georgia and Alabama. Nebraska's been an afterthought for a really long time. I think we can go back to the Colt McCoy 1-second game, and then they've been battling in the Big Ten, and then, they'll get to a big game with Bo, and they'll win all these Northwestern games on like Ron Kellogg Hail Marys or Jordan Westerkamp, and, all these guys will come through Nebraska. Amir Abdullah will have a big game against La Tech and whatever, and they'll escape, and that was with Bo. You never thought that Bo Pelini, as much as you liked Bo Pelini, and listen, I really like Bo Pelini, he shot it straight, funny, great character. Like a coach would be fun to play for, but he never had the offense. It was a little bit like Buddy Ryan, never had the offense. The fan base, never was good with boosters or any of that. He had strengths and weaknesses, just like our old friend Mike Riley is all nice and everything with boosters and probably really pleasant. He's not the guy you're going to run through a wall for. Frost was, great offensive mind, but didn't control defense and didn't, like to get involved at all with what Bill Moose or anybody was doing. So everybody has their strengths and weaknesses. Almost no one is perfect. No one's like a Saban. But maybe Matt Rhule can be better in all of these areas and can give, hopefully, the Satterfield in the offense. I would say Rhule's big weakness has been quarterback. So Matt Rhule now would trusting Marcus Satterfield. Satterfield at South Carolina, he didn't really pop. He only popped at the end with Spencer Rattler. And last year, throwing Jeff Sims as much as he did, he had a bad year. I'm worried about Marcus Satterfield. I'm confident in just about probably 40 coaches, to tell you the truth, over Satterfield. It doesn't mean that he can't do it. It means that I have real question marks about Satterfield. I have question marks about the offensive coordinator. So to go back to all of the point of the story is that if Dylan Raiola hits as a quarterback and you have one of the best quarterbacks in the country and you supplement a Heisman Trophy winning quarterback with a really good defense, you're going to then be competing for a Big Ten championship. You're going to probably go to the playoff. You're going to be probably ranked in the top 10 in a place that Nebraskans have dreamed of going. You literally could be going from zero to hero, from bottom floor to the penthouse with Dylan Raiola hitting the jackpot. That's what a great quarterback can do for you. The quarterback's the most important position on the field. He has to get the receivers the ball. He has to escape. He can make your offensive line look better. He's the one way that you score points. The quarterback's mostly the way that you score points. Running backs are important, but a quarterback controls the ball on every snap. He has the potential to make a really good play or turn it over, or really he's the function of your scoring machine, of your offense. The most important position in sports and in this game. And now Dylan Raiola commits to Nebraska, and it shows you that Nebraska can now hang. All right, so Nebraska now has to take this momentum, and is this just because he's the nephew of the uncle? And okay, so it's all how you look at it, guys, in this 20-minute podcast. And maybe a wealthy booster can get behind Nebraska, and now it can all be possible. And for those people who said that it was never possible, that it will never happen at Nebraska, they'll go out there and smile and say that Dylan was a once-in-a-lifetime player, but I don't think that they'll go and admit you're wrong. And in fact, in broadcasting school, how many times do you see people on TV admit they're wrong? That's bad television. That's not what you're supposed to do. So we'll see if that ends up happening. I believe Nebraska can get back. I'm an optimist as a person. I really am an optimist. I really never like to give up on anything. I never like to give up on anybody or give up in anything. So personally, I'm really excited about Dylan Raiola going to Nebraska. A part of me knows that it might not work out, or that it might work out big league. And I love the talent. I love what there is to work with. It validated the McCord decision. And these are days and weeks that I think Nebraskans will really remember. This was very emotional time. Is Dylan going to actually commit to Nebraska? Is this actually going to happen? Kyle McCord sitting right there. Matt Rhule goes the other way. And then you land Dylan Raiola. So, guys, it's exciting. It's a moment of celebration. And that's the way it should feel. And it could work out in a multitude of ways. It doesn't make you any more ridiculous for getting excited about it. Life's about enjoying the moments. So that's that. I guess, a soliloquy, but also trying to explain what this could mean for Nebraska football and highlighting a dream scenario in which Nebraska can become a really relevant national program again.